Good evening, guys. What I'm going to do today is teach you my method for converting DAZ Studio content over to using Poser. Now, why might you want to do that? Because DAZ Studio diverged from Poser a number of years ago, and DAZ now saves all of its content in a complex file called a DUF, which contains a geometry and a lot more. And that is no longer directly compatible with Poser. So you need a method to get that out to Poser. Now, there are other methods for doing this, but I've never had much luck with them. So if you have a much easier way of doing this, please let me know. So what I'm going to do is convert this A-frame house. Here's a picture of the store image. I bought it in the DAZ sale yesterday for $5.99. I'm in love with A-frame houses, especially out in the woods like this one is. And I'm going to convert the house and its interior props over to Poser. I suspect this is going to be at least a two-parter because texturing is going to be a whole big thing in its own right. But let's start by loading that into DAZ Studio. So here's the basic scene here. There's no background trees or anything. That was just composited in the advert here against I don't know. That might be an external scene, or it might just be composited into a photograph. But I don't care. So first of all, I need to go to the scene library, the scene tab pane, whatever you want to call it. And what you'll see here, this is a really good case because it's actually a special case that taught me a few things even now on how to do this, which I'd never encountered before. And what you'll see here is that you've got the parent prop, the cabin, which is everything. If you click that, it goes invisible. But then you also have individual furniture props within: the sofa, stool, bed, and then the bed has got a child duvet as well. But what makes this a particularly interesting case, which I had not encountered before, is that the parent cabin comprises bones, and then the props are just regular props, and that actually makes for an interesting series of processes that you need to go through, which will teach you both sides of what's needed to export this. So the first thing you're going to need is a folder to put them into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my runtime here, and I need to create a geometries folder here. So I can't remember who this is made by. Let's I think it's RLA, is it? RLA, yeah. RL. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to create a subfolder within Geometries called RL. I don't know what their real name is unless I've already got one there for them. No, RL, right, so it's going to be called RL. It doesn't really matter. I could call it anything. And then I'm going to copy that across from Windows, excuse me, Windows Explorer, so that I now have that path name saved. Now, the first thing I need to do is decide what parts I'm going to save first. So because this has got these bones as well as these props, it's a very weird case in the way that I'm going to have to save them. So I'll show you the easy bit first. I'm going to make the house go invisible. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to save the props first. So the props here, I've got this square kind of icon here. That means they're just props. And for this, all I need to do is select a prop. So we'll do sofa B, RL sofa B. Then I'm going to do export from the file menu. And then I'm going to go to the folder path that I just saved. And now I'm just going to call that exactly the same name. So RL sofa B here. So RL sofa B. Is that lowercase, right? And I'm going to change that to export wavefront object, which is a universal kind of prop format, or just a 3D geometry format. So Hopefully you can see that. So I'm saving it to the place, the folder in my Poser Geometries. So this is where I store all my Poser stuff, install everything is Poser 6. So I've been using it for a while. And I'm just going to click save. Now this window comes up. Now we're going to interact with this differently according to if we're saving bones or if we're saving props. But for now, I'm just going to save a prop, and I'm just going to change that to filter objects, make sure that's on selected routes, and then all of these others, you can just copy that as I've done it. And I'm going to do accept, and that's now saved. And if I go to my my folder in Windows Explorer, I can see that's there. Double click on that, and you can see there's the sofa. Oops, there's the sofa. So that has worked as expected. Now I tend to double check every single file. So I'm just going to, there you go. So it's easy to see. I check every single file as I go because I tend to get careless and make mistakes. So now what I'm going to do, the next selected thing is going to be sofa A. So I'm just going to work through these, and I'm going to save that as RL sofa A and leave that all the same. What have I done? I should have saved that as Poser because that sets the scaling. So I'm going to save that. So I'm just going to quickly go back and save Poser, that sofa B again. Export sofa B. Says over here the file already exists. Yes, I'm going to overwrite. Now they're all going to be Poser unit sizes. So the reason is that Poser files are absolutely tiny, so it needs to scale them when it saves. And then I'm just going to do save. And let me just open up that folder again. So here we can see we've got sofa A. That's a 3-seater sofa. Sofa B. That's a 2-seater sofa. Now, sometimes what will happen is you'll have the same prop, maybe a plant pot or something like that, or chairs, which will be duplicated multiple times around the scene. And you could save disk space by only saving one, and then when you reconstruct the scene in Poser, you just load that same chair and move it around the scene. But I will just show you something here. So this is Poser. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to go import wavefront object, 100% size, and I'm going to make sure that centered and place on floor are turned off. And now I'm going to go to that same path and load sofa into my scene. And it's currently looking for the path. So the path for textures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this sofa thing. And I'm going to go down here to surfaces. Oops, a daisy. Surfaces. And I'm going to choose any part of that sofa which hopefully has a material applied to it. Okay, on this occasion, no, on this occasion it has multiple parts. That was my bad. Okay, so here's the base color. You can see the textures open up beneath. And I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to do browse. And that's going to open up the path to the texture. So I'm now going to copy that path across. So now I've got two paths back and forwards I'm going to be doing, but hopefully it saves the other path already. So now I'm going to go to here and I'm going to set the path into there, which in this case is already set. And what's it looking for? It's looking for sofa A post albedo. So sofa A post albedo. And I'm going to click on that. It's weird. Sometimes it picks up the path name, sometimes it doesn't. So there you are. It's picked up the path name now for every other part. And now I'm going to do that again with the other sofa. And make sure it's not centered and not placed on floor. And you'll see why. So which sofa did I load there? I did sofa B. Hopefully it's now picking up the textures. There you go. It's already set. Sofa B post albedo. Have I just loaded the same sofa again? No, I haven't. Now, you'll see that they have automatically loaded in situ or into the correct place in the scene. And that's why it's very important when you're saving that you save poser. So this is the right scale for poser. And when you import without centering or placing on the floor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work through, I'm just going to do the remaining parts here. So I'm going to export the stool. So that's just called stool, isn't it? RL stool. RL stool. Leave everything the same. Poser. Filter objects. Accept. Double check that. RL stool. There's a stool. Okay, that's working. Stool 2. Okay, now this is going to be one of those examples, I suspect, where you have the same exact object. Let me have a look. I bet that's up in a bar somewhere. Where's the stool? Yep, there you go, in the back there. And they're exactly the same object. Now, I am going to save the stool twice, because then it saves me having to mess around. So what's that stool be? Stool 2, okay. Stool. It doesn't matter what name I give them here, just as long as I remember. But I'm going to use exactly their format just for your ease of reference. And filter objects, poser. I very much hope that I remember to do that on the other two. This is where you can easily just forget to click a setting. So stool, and it's looking for stool done albedo, not very useful names, but whatever. Stool done albedo. Albedo is a weird name for just calling the color, and that loads into the back there. And now I'm going to load stool 2 as well. I wouldn't usually load parts in as I go like this. It's only that I don't trust my memory that I've okay, they're loaded at the right scale. Okay, so now I'm going to save duvet, export. What's that called? I've got terrible memory. RL duvet. I do martial arts, and very often I have to remember if I'm striking first with my left or right arm, and you wouldn't believe how often I forget which arm I just did. I've got the absolute worst memory. Bed, export. I'm going to just assume RL bed. I don't know why that keeps, oh no, it's remembering it, but it's calling it custom. That's a really annoying way of doing it. Anyway, doesn't matter, set to filter. So I've done bed. So I've done all of the objects in the scene. Now, here's where things become a massive pain in the ass, okay? What I have to do is make every object in the scene except the root invisible. There's probably a keyboard shortcut to make them all invisible, just as there is in Poser, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Right, so cabin, right, so I've made the door visible, but the cabin is not visible, so I have to make that visible to see the door. And now, this is where things are very, very different. So I'm going to go export, and what's that called? That's called door A. Door A. And I'm going to export that as an object. But this time, I'm going to leave that as custom. That's still got the right scale there. I'm going to turn off filtered objects. So it will select anything that's visible. So the cabin is actually a container object rather than an actual object. It has no geometry, but the door is the thing that I want to save. So I'm just going to export that now. And if I have a look here, just double click to check, and you'll see the door object here. And now I have to work through doing that. So I'll probably just do that now, just in speed mode. I'll just do one more explaining. So I make door A invisible, turn lower floor on, export, And is that just called lower floor? Yep, lower floor. So it's given up on the RL prefix this time. Lower, was that lowercase? No, uppercase. And he's done an underscore, but I'm not going to bother with that. That's probably a Mac thing with the underscores. You don't need that on a PC. Lower floor. That's set to 0.41, blah, blah, blah. That's filtering off, and I'm going to accept that. So what's the difference between a bone and a prop? Now, I fully accept that I could be wrong with this, but I'm going to give a stab at it, just my understanding of it. Because really these are separate parts, just the same as props are, but I think of bones as being like parts of a body, ignoring unimesh and all of that nonsense. Imagine you've got a figure that's just created as one part, but you want to save the hands and the arms and the head and address them separately here. Even though it's one geometry, they're considered to be bones. But then when you have separate objects, so perhaps a hat on that figure, then that's when they become props. So I'm going to work through here. I'm going to save these different parts now, and I'll probably speed this up and I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, so I've done all of the different parts now. I'm just going to quickly check that they all look as they should. Okay, small objects, just preview on the side there. More complicated things, it's quicker to load them into this viewer. It's just a bit more sprightly than the Windows preview, and as you saw there, it actually couldn't preview. Okay, so these are all looking good. This scene was designed very strangely, because some furniture is objects that you can move around, some furniture is not. Oh, did you see that bed there? See that duvet? Look at that the polygons there. So that's gonna be a case where we may need to add smoothing on that, or even subdivision. I don't know why I'm looking at the sofas. I know they work because we already checked it. And the same with the stools actually. Right, wardrobes, that's the last thing. See, that was saved as a bone, I guess because they're fitted. Okay, so that's all done. So now what I need to do is pop on over to Poser and start importing them. So I'm going to import the internal stuff first because I don't want the cabin to obscure what I'm doing. So leave this as 100% centered and place on floor turned off. Actually, when you're doing a large scene, I tend to just work from top to bottom because otherwise I get confused what I've done. But in this case, the cabin will obscure everything else. So I'm going to skip that and I'm just going to do everything else. And again, it's a pain in the butt because it's going to make me load apart. So I'm in Bannister, RL Wood Coal, RL Wood Coal, which I presume means coloured. There may be an easier and quicker way of doing this. If there is, feel free to tell me. I could conceivably, okay, roller door albedo. This guy's got some really weird naming. roller door. Where the heck's roller door? I've suddenly gone all unalphabetical. Roller door, door albedo. What was I going to say? I have. What was that I just imported? Bathroom door. Bathroom props. Here we go. Oh, yeah, I could conceivably speed up the search for textures by bath and all done. My goodness, this guy's got dreadful naming. Bath and all done albedo. If I go to RL Wood 35. Okay, now this one's making me load too. That's interesting. RL Wood 35 coal. RL Wood 35 color. There we go. If I go to general preferences and do, I think it's library, is it? Yeah. File search. If I turn this down to none, that will make it a lot quicker because it won't keep searching for the textures all throughout my hard drive. So let's just give that a try. So what did I just do? I just did bathroom parts, didn't I? Let's load some more bits. See if that makes a difference. Bathroom props. So bathroom walls. Okay. And that's immediately, oh, actually, that has immediately picked up the previous path names, which is interesting. I expected it just to recognize that it didn't know where the textures were, but that's even better. So door A. Okay, surely that didn't pick up that texture, did it? This feels like it's going too easy. Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to turn that off a second just to compare because this seems like it's going too easy now. So door A, I'm going to reload that. Unfortunately, I think it might remember the previous path, which in this case is whatever that was. Right, door. Okay, we'll do door B just to have a difference. Oh, right, I see, right. So door A and B have got glass, they've got completely procedural textures. So there's no actual maps for them to find, which is why that came out looking weird. And this is where things are going to get a bit more involved when we come to reconstruct later. So I'm going to turn that back to library none. And I'm going to continue importing. So I've got to redo door A. Door A. I want to see what it does when it gets to some parts that have got textures. Fireplace. There you go. So it's immediately asking me where those parts are. Fireplace post albedo. Fireplace post albedo. So it's this. It's just a little bit quicker. I'm running off a really stupidly fast NVMe drive, so it can search my whole drive very quickly. But if you're not, each of these searches can be excruciatingly slow, so it's anything you can do to speed it up is good. Right, stove. Okay, go away, you. Stove, stove, ash. Oh, of course it's underneath. Right, there you go. Right, stove, ash, D. Displacement, I'm assuming. Okay, that's done. Right, and again, just working through here. Stove, stove, fireplace, kitchen. Marble top. Marble top. What we're looking for, marble top displacement. RL cooker front. See, it's very, very arbitrary what it picks up and what it doesn't. So RL cooker front appears to be a diffuse map, but then it's asking for a displacement. Fridge post albedo map. So okay, that's a diffuse map as well. The guy absolutely didn't have consistency in his naming here, which makes it a bit annoying. Cooker hood done. Right, continue importing. Probably going to speed up from this point, so I'll do it in the background so you don't have to watch me do every single thing. Okay, so all I have left now to do is the cabin frame. I've been thinking about why it picks up some textures and not others. If it's already used a texture earlier, such as this floor plank here, it will pick up the path to that again. So that might be one of the reasons. The other one could be the order that the textures are listed in the material file, which is here, the material file, OBJ material file. That might be why it's kind of arbitrarily leaping around. Okay, so here's the last thing. We're going to do the cabin now. And there we are. So I'm just going to save that first of all. Where am I going to save it to? Okay, we'll just call this A frame. Okay, so this is just work in progress because if anything goes wrong, I don't want to lose it. I would usually save this to the library as well as a scene. So I think the first thing we need to do is just give that a render and see what we get. So I can see straight away that there's some weirdness here. See on the edge of the house, it seems to have got like the wrong texture or something. But let's just set that to nice and quick. Post effects. What size are we going to render? Match preview window. Good. Okay, so let's just render that then. Okay, so clearly some text is missing entirely, some text is in the wrong place. Mostly looks pretty good. Let's compare that to a render from the other one. Okay, I'm just going to delete that and just load the whole thing from scratch because it's quicker than turning all that stuff back on and off. Okay, give me the picture, you dog. There we go. Okay, so where are we looking at it? We're looking at it from here somewhere on Poser. Right, so the reason the textures on the front are missing is because they're transparent. So it's clearly sent the OBJs don't carry a wide range of information. And so whatever this front texture is here, we need to make that transparent, but it doesn't matter. We can sort that through in a minute. But let's just do a render just to compare what we have. So there's a whole bunch of different things going on here. If we compare that to this, you can see that that's a very poor substitute, but not an unbearably poor substitute. There to there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to fix is this material here, but before we get onto that, I'm just going to stop recording in case I decide to make this two parts.